This is the year 1946. The arrival of a baby girl is celebrated. She was one of 12 children born into a very impoverished household. Urban legend has it that the parents paid the doctor who delivered her a mere sack of cornmeal. Dolly Rebecca Parton was just a little girl when her name began to glitter on billboards, in theaters, on movie screens, and in concert halls all over the world. Dolly Parton has transcended her country music roots in the decades since her breakthrough. She is a staple in society. She established Dollywood as one of the most beloved theme parks in America, won 11 Grammys out of nearly 50 nominations, helped send over 200 million free books to children through her literacy foundation, the Imagination Library, and sold over 100 million recordings globally. Dolly has been leading a double life behind her wigs, rhinestones, and snappy one-liners. She kept her calmer side under wraps for 30 years as she cultivated a dazzling public persona that the world believed they knew. What makes Dolly's story so captivating is the contrast, the struggle between Dolly the icon and Dolly the woman. Scandal and dishonesty are not at issue here. The key is to stay alive. It is the story of a little Smoky Mountain girl who discovered early on that protecting what's important to you behind closed doors often requires public performance. Even though Dolly Parton's case was a multicolored singing cloak, there were more layers to her life than anyone could have predicted. In order to comprehend Dolly's double life, it is necessary to comprehend her incredible journey thus far. Dolly Parton came into this world on January 19, 1946, in the small Great Smoky Mountain town of Locust Ridge, Tennessee, not far from Pittman Center. Robert Lee Parton had 12 children, of whom she was the fourth. A builder and sharecropper, and A.V. Lee Parton, whose singing and faith united the family. The Parton family supposedly had no money at all when Dolly was born, so her dad gave the doctor a bag of cornmeal as payment. Over the years, Dolly has laughed her way through her story, never once avoiding talking about her modest origins. Songs like Coat of Many Colors, which she wrote about her mother's patchwork coat made from rags, and other timeless compositions would eventually be inspired by her struggles with poverty. Everyone was jamming out in that tiny cabin, and it was a real party. Dolly took in church hymns while A.V. Lee taught her kids Appalachian folk tunes. She began performing on Knoxville radio stations when she was just 10 years old. And Johnny Cash himself introduced her at her first Grand Ole Opry performance when she was 13 years old. It didn't matter to Dolly. She already had a plan. A home in the woods was never going to be her destiny, she once declared. It was unclear to me how far it would be to reach my destination. She was resolute in her pursuit of her goal. The day after she graduated from high school in 1964, she left for Nashville just as she had promised. Things were tough in the beginning. People in Nashville were full of optimism. Also, the popular music of the time didn't really reflect Dolly's voice, which had a high mountain accent. Her secret weapon, though, was perseverance. She was signed to Monument Records, and although she was initially encouraged to pursue pop, she soon discovered her niche in country. In 1967, she broke through when she accepted an invitation to appear on television with Porter Wagoner, who was the host of the popular show. Dolly became a household name because to that collaboration. They went on a cross-country tour, recorded duets, and gained devoted fans together. In reality, though, Dolly was already demonstrating that she wasn't satisfied to be anyone's sidekick behind the scenes of their matching dresses and grins. Dolly took the difficult decision to go solo in 1974, leaving Wagner's program. We'll Always Love You, a farewell ballad she composed to ease the pain, is now among the most famous songs ever written. Just that one act sums up Dolly's double life so well. Subtle sweetness masks a depth of determination, self-discovery, and the necessity to face difficult choices. From humble beginnings with only a cornmeal birthright, the girl was suddenly destined for stardom. However, having a good voice was not enough to become a star. A meticulously constructed picture was necessary. At that point, Dolly's second life started to materialize. The legendary Dolly Parton will give you her honest opinion on her style if you ask her. A lot of cash goes into making one look this inexpensive. The sly brilliance of her character is summed up in the winking one-liner. It was still anticipated that ladies would play country music in a subdued manner in the 1970s, when males wore cowboy hats. It was Dolly's decision to detonate that. Wearing rhinestone gowns that glistened like disco balls under the stage lights, she piled her hair into sky-high wigs and painted her lips a vibrant red. She has admitted on one occasion that the town tramp from her native country served as an inspiration for her style. A fearless woman was remembered for her hushed conversations. If it is trashy, then trashy certainly seems entertaining, Dolly thought to herself. Yet the key is right here. Dolly's glitter was more than skin deep. Protective armor. Thanks to Dolly Parton, we now have huge hair, busty clothes, and an over-the-top sense of femininity. Her performances were so eye-catching that viewers frequently lost interest in delving further. Dolly was able to keep her personal life just that, private, behind her armor. She was so dedicated to this cause that she confessed to putting her makeup on overnight. Why? She wanted to be prepared to meet the public without compromising the illusion, in case an earthquake or fire broke out during the night. Consider how much weight you give to your public persona. That must be somewhat taxing. For Dolly, though, it was a matter of surviving in a field that is ready to write off female performers the minute they seem average. Dolly, as expected, used the attention to her advantage. By joking about it, she got the press to stop speculating about plastic surgery. She used to joke that if something was drooping, sagging, or bagging, she would tuck, suck, or pluck it. By doing so, she maintained command of the story while turning vulnerability into a comedy. How she managed to be both open and secretive is arguably the most interesting aspect. Dolly could wax poetic about her elaborate bust line, makeup regimen, and wigs for hours. Secrets about her marriage, problems, and beliefs, on the other hand, were well guarded. Her admirers fooled themselves into thinking they knew her, but all they saw was the version she desired. This delicate balancing act was not dishonest. Strategy was at play. Dolly the Soul was shielded from harm as she constructed Dolly the Show. She found a way to protect her innermost truths while navigating the demands of celebrity and maintaining control over her work. Still, Dolly's inconsistencies simply became more numerous, as we'll see. She glistened like the nation's queen. In addition to being the woman whose shocking photo shoot for Playboy stunned fans, she wrote gospel music while pursuing crossover success in pop and rock, all while being a devoted Christian. Despite her altruism and generosity, she had a cunning business mind and became a household name long before it was fashionable. It wasn't all for show with the wig and rhinestones. She was able to live two lives, one for the world and one for herself, thanks to these masks. By the time the wigs reached skyscraper heights and the rhinestones were blinding, Dolly Parton had already established herself as a brand. However, unlike other brands, Dolly's had invisible writing printed on it. Her marriage remains the greatest unsolved enigma. May 30, 1966 was the wedding day of Dolly Parton and Carl Thomas Dean. Dolly, Carl, her mom, the minister, and the minister's wife were the only attendees at the small ceremony. For the majority of viewers, Carl, who was her spouse for close to 60 years, remains a specter. With an equanimity worthy of an Olympic gold medal, the man has consistently denied interviews, avoided red carpets, and makes few public appearances. This led to perpetual conjecture. Is he genuine? Was their divorce a secret? Did Dolly have a secret love life that she was trying to hide? She played along with the rumors for laughs, such when she said that Carl, her closet mannequin, was actually a real person. Actually, Carl detested being in the limelight. Carl was quietly running an asphalt paving company in Nashville, while Dolly was busy establishing Dollywood, touring stadiums and starring in 9 to 5. The contrast between Dolly's sparkling sequins and Carl's work boots at home is just breathtaking. Her double existence was on full display in that instance. Following that, there is Dolly's religion. Her Christian faith has always been an open topic of conversation for her. Gospel music was an integral part of her upbringing in the Smoky Mountains. She says she prays every single day and has recorded a slew of gospel records. Still, Dolly's 1978 photo shoot for Playboy startled conservative followers. Neither was she nude when she posed. The iconic rabbit costume, ears and all, was her attire. It was almost scandalous to think that Playboy would feature a gospel-singing country lady. She laughed it off later and said that she did it because she wanted to show off her cuteness while she could. Dolly shrugged it off. Dolly Parton embodies that seeming paradox of holding a Bible and bunny ears simultaneously. She was always a bit of a puzzle solver. That could be the secret. Sins weren't meant to be concealed by the double life. It was all about escaping constraints. The story is echoed in her music as well. Keep in mind that Jolene and I Will Always Love You, two of her most popular songs, were written in the span of a single night in 1973. Jealousy and temptation are the subjects of one. The other is a heartfelt goodbye. Dolly must have been negotiating a lot of emotional terrain at once to channel all those feelings in one sitting. Her business empire is another factor. As far as the fans are concerned, Dollywood is just a theme park with cinnamon toast and roller coasters. Dolly is a cunning entrepreneur behind the scenes. Surgically constructing her brand, she has invested in media enterprises, owned numerous firms under the Dollywood banner, and more. Still, she plays down this aspect of her personality, often acting like a simple country girl despite making decisions that could cost millions of dollars. Underneath her glamorous persona, there is another side to her, the astute CEO, and charitable giving must also be considered. Beginning in 1995, children all across the world have received more than 200 million free books through Dolly's Imagination Library. She famously gave $1 million to COVID-19 vaccine research at Vanderbilt University and has also supported hospitals and scholarships. But she never stops making fun of her charity, saying that she isn't in it for the recognition. The importance of giving back after receiving blessings was once stated by Dolly. Also, I have been fortunate beyond what I could have ever imagined. Even her charitable work isn't without its flaws. Generosity is visible to the public. Despite her tendency to keep a low profile, Dolly's faith and the hardships she endured as a youngster form the foundation of her purpose. Thus, during the 1980s and 1990s, Dolly was balancing two very different aspects of her life, the blatantly public and the fiercely private, and they were both contributing to her success. Allow me to explain. Since juggling two lives isn't simple, I wonder why she clung to the idea of being apart for so long. The idea of balancing two lives is more exciting than it actually is. The factors behind Dolly's decades-long success go beyond wigs and clever comebacks. The weight of celebrity comes first. Imagine going about your day with the knowledge that millions of people think they have a right to hear about your tragedies, secrets, and stories. Dolly Parton learned early on that if she doesn't control her popularity, it will consume her. She kept the vulnerable portions of her personality hidden by crafting an ostentatious persona for her admirers to gaze upon. The order was one of self-preservation. Now let's shift our focus to gender. It was in the 1960s, when Dolly Parton first appeared on the country music scene, that the stereotypical role of women was to play the supporting role, by playing up her feminine qualities, the wigs, the cosmetics, and the wit surrounding her body. Before anyone else could turn the joke against her, she took charge of it. Her laughter grew louder when her detractors accused her of being overly showy. She became a punchline when they made fun of her bust. It's powerful. She was able to ascend ladders that may have been yanked away from her without that persona. Control comes in at number 3. A vocalist wasn't Dolly's only talent. In her spare time, she dabbled in music and business. By taking full control of her publication rights, she was able to pocket millions of dollars when Whitney Houston's rendition of "I Will Always Love You" topped the charts. She had to be patient if she wanted to keep her music and her finances under her control. While the public Dolly diverted attention away from important matters, the private Dolly executed contracts, expanded her empire, and while everyone else believed she was playing checkers, played chess. There was danger in living a second life, though. Rumors were fueled by secrecy. She was the subject of tabloid speculation on her sexuality, marital status, and alleged extramarital encounters for decades. "People are always chatting," Dolly said, laughingly brushing them off. "Even if they're picking on me, they're ignoring someone else." Still, you must have taken a mental toll from constantly shifting the blame and rephrasing your responses. The strain became apparent at times. Interviews from the 1980s show Dolly pausing before discussing Carl Dean or road loneliness. Dolly Parton revealed her struggles with mental illness and self-doubt in her autobiography from 1994. As a sobering reminder that behind the masks was a real person attempting to manage, she even admitted to having suicidal thoughts in the 1980s. If leading a double life was so draining, then why did you do it? Because handing it all over was the worst option. The fact that some people refuse to acknowledge my abilities is no reason for me to limit myself, as Dolly Parton famously put it. She allowed herself space to grow, to try new things, and to live by keeping her private and public selves apart. And it was successful to some extent. It can be seen in this way. Dolly Parton's rhinestone costume and her quick wit amused fans as she made fun of her bust. Dolly felt safe as soon as she returned home, removed the wig, and sat on the porch with Carl Dean. The two lives were important, but they were not required to intersect. Maintaining that equilibrium for 3 decades was no easy feat. The rope shook, and Dolly's private self peeked out from beyond the curtain, as it inevitably does in all high-wire acts, and showed the world that she had qualities beyond her sass and sequins. Dolly made sure she had a part of her life unspoiled by celebrity by ensuring Carl stayed out of the limelight. Impressive double acting. There was the famous singer Dolly Parton, and her private life as a housewife. She managed to stay sane in an industry that devours people whole because of her dualism. In the 1980s, she battled depression, but few admirers knew about it, at which time she wrote the memoir, My Life and Other Unfinished Business. Behind all the glitz and glamour, she was secretly dealing with health problems, heartache, and emotional pressure, which she hid with her signature energy and humor. Years later, she finally spoke about those times, demonstrating that the stage version of Dolly was just part of the narrative. To rephrase, Dolly's dazzling disguise served as strategy rather than deceit. It was her method of satisfying our every whim while retaining her own necessities. On the one hand, Foot embodies the best of what the South has to offer: warmth, generosity, and a focus on family. Contrarily, she is fearless, unconventional, and full of life. Besides posing for Playboy, who else could afford to donate millions to medical research and children's reading programs? Dolly is the one. In 1978, she sported the legendary rabbit costume. I did it because I still had the boobs in the waistline, she told admirers when she recreated it for her husband's birthday at age 75. Traditional Dolly Parton. Her charitable work comes next. Dolly does more than simply reward. She reimagines the concept of giving back. From its modest beginnings in Tennessee, her imagination library has expanded to provide over 200 million free books to children all across the globe. Some have joked that Dolly Parton is the reason we can walk outside again, as she secretly donated $1 million to help support Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine development in 2020. Her paradoxes are lovely, but this is where they really shine. Dolly has always been fearless in her genre hopping, even though she has built her empire on country music. With the release of 9 to 5 and Here You Come Again in the 1980s, she ventured into mainstream music. And in 2023, with the release of her album Rockstar, she achieved full-on rock stardom at the age of 77. Paul McCartney, Elton John, Stevie Nicks, and other artists' duets are being discussed. Dolly only grinned as fans and critics were taken aback. She went on the record and said she felt obligated to make the record since she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Dolly likes it that way. She isn't the type to simply turn up when pushed. Compared to everyone else, she appears larger, more daring, and more sparkling. However, a thread runs through all the seeming inconsistencies. Whatever Dolly wants, Dolly does. She defies categorization and societal norms. She has the ability to be both innocent and alluring, modest and showy, private and regal all at once. That's the irony that ensures her enduring appeal. The narrative told by Dolly Parton is the quintessential American fairy tale. With only a sack of cornmeal, her parents brought her into this world in a little cabin in the Great Smoky Mountains. Electricity, running water, and shoes were all things she frequently lacked as a child. But she rose from such meager origins to launch one of the most extraordinary careers in music history. Living a parallel life wasn't about avoiding scandal. It was about staying alive. Dolly managed to keep her true nature hidden behind the curtain while maintaining a captivating public character. She managed to fool everyone and no one for 30 years while living that double life with ease. Perhaps the true lesson lies in that. You can be whatever that you want to be, as Dolly Parton shows us. There is room for both glitz and grit, trust and independence, imagination and realism in you. Becoming both the icon and the woman that is Dolly Parton is within your reach, and you can facilitate the unfettered growth of both lives. So this is what we mean when we say that Dolly led a double life for 30 years. Dolly had a life she dictated. She became more than just stardom. She became a legend whose tale would be passed down through the generations, even after the final rhinestone has faded. Thank you for sticking around to the very end. Which part of Dolly Parton's double life caught you off guard the most, by the way? Please inform us in the space provided. While you're down there, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and bell to be the first to know when we upload new stuff.